Greg McElroy, welcome back to T-Town. I hope you're having a great day.
I appreciate it. Good to talk to you guys. How y'all doing?
Hey, very good, very good. Just, 4-0, and Nick Saban has programmed our brain to look at Alabama football in a unique way. And, it's never good enough, 49-7. We're all critiquing each and every little thing. Monday morning, Tuesday morning quarterback, I guess, here in Tuscaloosa.
We're all doing what Coach wants then, right? No rat poison here. And Coach is obviously always trying to find those motivational buttons to press. And I remember games like last week, and first of all, it's impressive to watch them. They're on offense, man. I've never seen anything quite like it. I mean, they were special last year, but now it's like on a whole other level with their run after catch, just how on point they are with the underneath throws and the decision making that Tua is currently displaying. Man, it's awesome to watch. But I think all of us as Tide fans, we want to see that run game get going. We want to see that defense look and play up to its potential. I mean, there's so many things you still want to see, but man, it's a great start, and I don't think any of us should really be all that surprised.
All right, so you're coming to Tuscaloosa. Let's get things started and talk about the Tailgate Nation tomorrow. It's right here on Walmart, Scotland Boulevard, 1501 Scotland Boulevard, 3:30 until 7:30. Your chance to go out and see Greg and Big Al and the Alabama cheerleaders. A lot of great activities tomorrow. Tell us more as we lead into tomorrow afternoon, Tailgate Nation.
Well, you know how it is. And, hey, with Ole Miss claiming that they're the best tailgate scene, I think it's the perfect week to do it, right?
Sure,
So
sure.
Let's show them how it's done this weekend. But let's get it kicked off on Wednesday. I know the tailgating festivities won't really get rocking until Thursday night, Friday during the day, potentially sometimes a little bit on Friday night. And Saturdays, obviously, it's all hands on deck. But tomorrow night and tomorrow afternoon is going to be great. General Mills is doing a great event right now with the Tailgate Nation pep rally. And like you said, the cheerleaders can be there. Big Al's going to be there, and it's going to be all kinds of fun stuff too. And I think it's another thing too, just to remind everybody that you can get all your tailgate needs at fanatics.com/Walmart tailgate. So in order to make sure we teach Hotty Toddy how it's done in Tuscaloosa, I think it's the right way to get it kicked off tomorrow at Walmart between 3:30 and 7:30.
Your former coach told us a couple of weeks ago that he's never been to a tailgate. He's never been to a tailgate. He told us that a couple of weeks ago.
Does that surprise you?
No, not really. Not really.
His idea of tailgating is, some Golden Flakes and maybe a Diet Coke if you're feeling a little crazy. But it's, I'm not surprised. I mean, it's one of those things. I haven't really had that many opportunities to tailgate, man. I mean, occasionally on the bye week, go back in town when I was playing, but now I don't really have that bye week. So the tailgate scene is lost on me, but I know that y'all are picking up the slack for what Coach and I don't get a chance to experience.
Hey, Greg, we got a call, and I had a list of questions that I certainly want to try to get to as we pick your brain about college football. But we had a call about 3 minutes ago from Birmingham who heard you on another show, and maybe you can pick up and kind of explain. But he was saying that you might have said, and you know how radio is. I mean, sometimes things get a little bit stretched out a little bit. So when you talk about, you said that they might be calling plays to try Alabama calling plays to try to confuse our own offensive linemen, or maybe give them a test to see how they would handle some responsibility. Something that you might have said. Does that bring any?
It does.
Okay.
Yeah, I was on with Cole Kubelik, and there were a couple looks that I saw, and Cole saw them too. So I know I wasn't just seeing ghosts. I think sometimes when you're playing against overmatched competition, which at the time it was against New Mexico State. So I think it's understandable that they probably want to put the team in a spot to see how they respond to a less than ideal look. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So, for instance, they're running into a front on a particular run scheme that you wouldn't ordinarily run that against, especially if you're running against the likes of, Derek Brown at Auburn, or if you're playing against Georgia in the SEC championship. But if for whatever reason you got stuck in a play and it wasn't an ideal look, at least the guys have memory from a game earlier in the season of having run against that look. So they're not I'm not saying they're calling plays in order to make themselves look bad. No, heck no. But what I'm saying is they might not currently have the checks and the audibles built in to get you out of those looks. They want to see how the guys respond when it's not perfect. And I think that's actually the great way to coach. The players might not know the difference, but the coaches at least will be able to draw that as a reference point down the road when they start to install some checks and some audibles that Tua might have down the line when they're playing against better competition.
Now, is that typical? Is that just something that Nick Saban, and you see that around college football? I mean, this guy's always ahead of the curve, and I'm talking about the best coach in college football history. But, I mean, is that something that you see? Because you break down a lot more film than I've ever thought about. Is that something you see a lot, or is this just something Nick Saban's doing?
I think it's something that it just depends on the comfort level of your quarterback, and it depends on the comfort level of your offense and how young guys are, et cetera. And it's no secret that they've been trying to work in some different pieces up front and trying to solidify that group. And I think allowing them to just go out and play without giving them an out is something that I can see Nick Saban doing. We used to do in practice all the time, where we would have, for instance, in a front, you'd have a shade, a 3 technique, and a guy standing right over the tight end, which is the worst possible play to try to run the stretch zone against. But Coach Pendry would say, "Hey, line it up. Let's go. We're not going to tell them where to line up when we're running these plays." That's just kind of how they look. Now, I haven't seen it done a ton in the game, but knowing the circumstances and knowing when it happened in the season, I think it makes sense, especially when you have young guys too, and things are going wild, and game day is obviously a little different environment. So it would not shock. Nick Saban doesn't do anything on accident. Everything. Sure. Everything is a well thought out and a calculated risk. So I do think that there were some things in the run game that I saw against New Mexico State that didn't make a ton of sense. But then again, like I said, it might be a challenge internally that they are trying to emphasize amongst their team without their team actually knowing it.
Greg, I interviewed you coming out of high school, out of the state of Texas. I remember featuring you as a high school recruit committed to the University of Alabama and following your collegiate days. As you study this Nick Saban system, because you can help us understand a lot more than we can actually understand from our perspective. When you look at Nick Saban, what's the biggest change that you've seen him establish from where you were at as a transition, national champion winning quarterback, and then where he is in 2019?
Well, I think what you see now is he has fully embraced what college football's become. Where, look, with all due respect to Georgia, like last week's performance against Notre Dame reminded me of a vintage, A.J. McCarron-led Alabama team. Very efficient offensively, great defensive performance. But I don't think it's going to set itself up if, in fact, Notre Dame last week against Georgia would have come out and hung 40 points, then it would have been really tough to win that way. So what he did, kind of starting in 2013, and then really it's trying to really take shape when Lane Kiffin was hired, start to embrace offensive-minded football. And clearly part of that transition was the success that Ole Miss had against Alabama, and knowing that, hey, if we play Ole Miss, we might have to win a shootout or two. You know what I mean? And that actually came to fruition a couple times. And it's not one time they came up short, but other times they had success. So I think that transition started probably 5 or 6 years ago. Auburn kind of helped with that transition as well, because Auburn had some success offensively in doing some things against what was an elite defensive group. So I think that it's really been an amazing change to see him be so adamant against the RPO, so adamant against tempo offense 6 or 7 years ago, talking about player safety and all that other stuff. And then when they refused to make a change, he said, you know what? Well, if you can't beat them, just join them, because we got better personnel. So let's go try to recruit the best quarterback in the country and the best set of wide receivers so that it becomes a matchup nightmare for defenses. And we'll just pitch it all over the yard and get guys in space and start to stretch you horizontally. So I think it's a great move. You see LSU finally did it, 6 or 7 years too late. But it just puts so much stress on the defense. And I think Nick Saban, obviously, he's probably mostly going to be comfortable winning games when the defense is dominant. But you can't expect to rely on that every single week nowadays in college football. The offenses are just too good, and they just put too much conflict on defenders.
Greg, where do you see Alabama as an area that they need to improve? If we're going to be hoisting up a trophy down in New Orleans and the road through Atlanta to get to maybe Phoenix or Atlanta, wherever that's going to send us back in the semifinal game, if Alabama is going to be hoisting up a trophy down in New Orleans, where do they need to improve the most in your?
I think the biggest thing, and tell me if you agree with me here, because I watch the fan like everybody. Sometimes I have to take off my crimson glasses because all things look at it, it's like, man, this team is pretty freaking unstoppable.
Sure.
You look at this offense, I don't know how you stop them. I really don't. I don't. You have to score 50 to beat them. That's really how I feel. Now, I also felt that way last year too, but the same things happen, and the perfect storm happens down in Santa Clara, and it wasn't the outcome that any of us could have forecasted, nor was it the outcome that any of us wanted. It was gut-wrenching to watch that. But I think the one area I'd like to see is I'd like to see them take a little bit of strain off the defense. Their offense is almost too explosive. You know what I mean? And with them having some youth and some inexperience and a couple injuries on the defensive side, I don't want those guys to be up against an offense like South Carolina a couple weeks ago that ran 85 snaps. I think that can take its toll over the course of the season. So I'd like to see a little bit more ball control, and I'd like to see them really lean heavily on trying to get this ground game established. We've seen already what Najee can do as a receiver out of the backfield, which has been a sight for sore eyes. It's really nice to see him blossoming over the last few weeks, and he's been really effective when catching the ball out of the backfield. But I do think there's a little bit of room for improvement along the offensive line to try to create a little bit more balance offensively and not to put so much pressure on Tua and these wide receivers. And I think, too, if they get that ground game going, that clock's going to churn. It's going to take more pressure off the defense and the amount of exposure they might get from a snap standpoint. So, like I said, that's like super nitpicking. But all in all, I mean, you have to be thrilled with what they've done to this point, and knowing that they still have a few more weeks before they're really going to be tested. I'm really, really encouraged with the trajectory. I'm watching Clemson. Like, I have Clemson this week, and I'm studying Clemson really, really hard. And I think Clemson on offense right now is a little bit of a mess. So when I turn on the tape for Alabama and they're just a high-flying machine, it's not everybody's like that right now. There's a couple teams that are really clicking on all cylinders. LSU's one, Ohio State's one, but even Oklahoma's one as well. But Clemson's had some ups and downs on that side of the football. So I think just given where we're at in the season and how long we have to the finish line, they're right where they need to be. But there are still definitely some areas that you'd like to see them improve.
A lot of people talk about, too, the final question here for Greg McElroy. He's going to be coming to Tuscaloosa. The General Mills Tailgate Nation is getting fans ready for the Alabama football game this coming Saturday, but it's tomorrow, 3:30 until 7:30 here at the Walmart on Skyland Boulevard. Greg, the cheerleaders, the mascot, all the activities getting you ready. Fanatics.com/Walmart tailgate for their tailgating needs. General Mills Tailgating Nation coming to Tuscaloosa, coming up tomorrow. Your chance to go out and meet Greg and all the atmosphere that'll be painted there at Walmart. Final question, because we asked Tua how much is left of this offense. I want you to put those microscope on Tua Tagovailoa. When you talk about looking at him making these progressions and development, how much is left of the ceiling of Tua Tagovailoa? When you talk about, because every day I go out there and watch him throw, and I shake my head.
But then, we all do. Don't worry.
Yeah, and then I'm going, okay, well, how much is left? Because you would expect that he'll continue to get better. He'll continue to get better. But what is left? How much more of the ceiling is it for Tua Tagovailoa in the collegiate career side of things?
Well, I thought he was the best player in the country last year. I thought it was a travesty he didn't win the Heisman Trophy. I really still feel that way. But I look at it, and the way he's operating right now, and one thing I had an issue with last year was just how long he held on to the football. He was just hanging on to it, and he got hit a lot, and it was unnecessary. And he, of course, got banged up as the season went along. But this year, he's a totally different guy in that regard. Like, the ball's out of his hand lightning quick, and they're putting those playmakers in space, and he's hitting them in stride. So you see a guy like Henry Ruggs who runs sub 4.3, and he never breaks stride. The guy, no one can catch him. He's running around defenders that are Division I 5-star athletes coming out of high school. So I think right now, I honestly don't think I'd change a single thing about how he's operating. There's not one thing I would do differently. I just hope that this same level of efficiency continues against the top-tier defenses that he's going to face in the weeks to come. Because I think A&M has a pretty good defense. I think Auburn's excellent on the defensive side of the football. Georgia, obviously, is really, really strong on defense. I think LSU has some legitimate concerns on that side of the ball. So that side doesn't concern me as much, but that's still quite a ways away. But against those teams, I still want to see him operate with the same efficiency and not try to do too much. Last year, didn't it feel like sometimes he was pressing? And sometimes when he was pressing, he held on to the ball a little too long, and he didn't operate with the same rhythm. That's what I want to see him avoid. But and he's just so special. Like it's such a gift to be able to watch him play football. and just the accuracy that he has, even throws that come across looking somewhat routine. Like the one that stands out to me probably more than any this year was the touchdown against Duke. They ran like a little naked route. He was rolling to his right, and there was a defender between him and the intended receiver, and he threw it in a window that was about 4 inches by 4 inches, right over the defender's right shoulder, perfectly in stride to the wide receiver for the touchdown. I mean, he's just on such another level right now. And I just want that to continue when he's playing against top-tier competition. And just given the way he's playing right now, I don't see it slowing down anytime soon.
Hey, Greg, talk one more time about the General Mills Tailgate Nation, which is coming to Tuscaloosa tomorrow at the Walmart here on Skyline Boulevard.
Yeah, it's going to be a blast. It's really going to be a lot of fun. It's from 3:30 to 7:30 at Walmart in Tuscaloosa. 1501 Skyland Boulevard, if you're not familiar. If you don't know where the Walmart in Tuscaloosa is, you're lost.
100%.
You got to know where that
100%.
is. Right?
Yeah, 100%.
Do we even need to give the address?
No, we don't. We don't. Yeah.
If you don't know where the Walmart is, you're doing it wrong in Tuscaloosa. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And General Mills is going to have that Tailgate Nation pep rally. It should be a blast with the cheerleaders, Big Al, and everything. So come and say hello, and I look forward to talking with y'all and talking with the Tide fans and hopefully getting ready to go 5-0. But 1-0 this week, as Coach always likes to prep.
Hey, no doubt. Greg, thank you again for visiting with us here in Tuscaloosa. Hopefully we can do it again soon. Thank you again.
All right, guys. Y'all have a great rest of the year.